Pop quiz time. How many blood types are there? You got your answer? If you've ever taken a basic biology class, you probably said 8, which is mostly correct, but not really the whole story. Most people are familiar with the ABO and RH blood type systems. ABO's what it sounds like. You're either A, B, AB, or O. And RH is the positive or negative that comes after the letters. So you can be something like AB negative or O positive. The combination of these two systems gives 8 possible blood types. And these are the blood types that people are familiar with. But the actual total number of possible blood types is more like in the millions. Okay, so before we get too lost in the numbers, let's talk about what blood type actually means. To put it simply, each blood type system measures the presence or absence of different antigens on the blood. What's an antigen? It's just a way for your immune system to recognize your cells, usually in the form of proteins or polysaccharides, complex sugars, on the outside of the cell. Think of antigens as a kind of barcode or QR code that your immune system can scan, so that way it knows what the cell is and if it's supposed to actually be there. The ABO system measures the presence or absence of the A and B antigens. If you're type A, that means you have the A antigen. If you're type B, you have the B antigen. Type AB is if you have both, and type O is if you have neither. The RH system measures for the D antigen. If you have it, you're positive. If you don't, you're negative. So someone who is A positive would have the A and D antigen, but not the B antigen. Okay, so that's the basics, but it's about to get a little bit more complicated. We also have subgroups. For example, if you have type A blood, you could either be in the A1 or the A2 subgroup. Most people are in A1, by the way, about 80% of people. And that really just means that you have a denser concentration of antigens on your red blood cells. I'm editing right now, but thought I should just add this in. That is kind of a way oversimplification of subgroups. This is what a chart of subgroups looks like, and I'm sure you can kind of see why I simplified it just for the sake of the video. Subgroups are pretty complicated, and honestly, it could be its own video in and of itself. On top of that, there's also the extended RH system. The RH system also measures 4 other significant antigens that are usually denoted as big C, big E, and little e. So with those additions, we're up to maybe a few hundred different blood groups? But wait, there's more. Those are only the antigens deemed significant in the RH blood group. There's actually 53 different antigens in total in the RH group. And the RH group is just one of many groups. There are over 40 different antigen systems with a total of over 600 individual different antigens. Overall, there's potentially millions of different combinations. So why do we only care about the 8? Let's take a quick sidetrack, but don't worry, this all ties in. Earlier this year, scientists discovered the 48th blood group system that they're calling GUADA. This years-long discovery process started with a woman who couldn't take blood from any donor. Her blood was incompatible with every single sample they tried. Eventually, they decided to take a look at her genetics and see if they could figure out what was going on. They discovered that she had a mutation in one of her genes that produces an antigen for red blood cells. This mutation meant that a specific sugar wasn't being produced, and the end result of that was her having a totally unique blood type. She was the first and only person ever recorded to be GUADA negative. The reason that she couldn't take any blood donations was that her body would see the donated blood and see that it had a GUADA antigen on it, and recognize that it wasn't hers and destroy it. Many unique blood types like this are super rare, so much so that they're often named after the first person it's observed in. In this case, it was actually named after the island. The woman that this blood was observed in was an anonymous patient from the Caribbean island of Guadeloupe, and Guada is just a slang term for someone from Guadeloupe, thus the Guada blood group. Real quick, if you think this video is interesting and want more like it, make sure you like and subscribe. Okay, back to the cool stuff. The main question still stands. If there's so many possible variations in blood type, why do we only care about the 8 different blood types? Well, with something like being Guada negative, it's so rare that we don't really need to denote it in blood types. Everyone else that's ever been tested has been Guada positive, so it's pretty safe to assume that everyone, or almost everyone, is Guada positive. The only reason this patient was Guada negative was a random mutation that's very unlikely to happen again. And that's the case with most rare blood types. They're so rare that the vast majority of people will never have to really worry about it. Pretty much everyone's Guada positive, so we don't really need to worry about denoting it in blood types. The other reason we might not denote a specific antigen's presence or absence is that it hasn't been observed to really make a difference. In the case of the Rh antigens, the only one that really makes a significant difference is the D antigen, so that's why we just stick to the positive-negative system to say if you have the D antigen or not, and don't really worry about denoting any other antigens. And lastly, if we were to denote every antigen, blood types would just become so long and complicated and filled with useless information that they'd kind of become meaningless. So, what does this all mean? Well, for most people, not much. The vast majority of people fit nicely into the ABO and Rh blood type systems, and any deviation from those 8 blood types is either so rare that it almost never happens, or not significant enough to affect blood transfusion compatibility. The moral of the story, though, is that even though the 8 blood types encompass pretty much everyone, it's still important to know that there are rare blood types out there. Just because it doesn't affect you personally doesn't mean it's not affecting other people in the world who are just like you. Biology is often much more complicated and messy than the basics that were taught in school, and it's important to keep learning and expanding your knowledge base. This topic is actually way bigger than I could talk about in this video. Hematology is an incredibly complicated and deep subject, and there's a lot of other cool things that I didn't even mention in this video, like Rh-null and artificial blood, and how blood types interact with the immune system. And another really interesting story I was looking at recently about a woman who has her brother's blood. It's a pretty crazy story. So if you want to hear more about that kind of stuff, leave a comment and let me know. And make sure that you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.